Hi, everyone. So welcome to Webinar 3 on climate change at the Global Cultural Jamboree organized by the Sri Lankan Scouts. And also welcome to the Community Center, which is powered by UNV Sri Lanka and other agencies. So y'all all must have joined in for the first two sessions that were held yesterday and earlier today. So just let me get y'all through on how else y'all can join these other sessions and I'll start to screen share now. So all of you must have joined these webinars by going into the community center link, which has been shared with y'all. So how you can choose to interact with us is by going onto this community center, and then you can see over here, it says to click on this link and keep it open. So you can open on that link and it takes you to the virtual community center. And over here, it shows you all the 7 webinars that will be conducted by us. So for example, today we'll be having webinar 3. So you can click on webinar 3. And when you go down, you will get all the relevant information, and any activities that will be conducted during this webinar will all be there. So now without any further ado, let me start by welcoming Anuradha from UNDP and to start this session on climate change. Anuradha, over to you.
Thank you, Gyaksha. Hi, everyone. Just give me a minute. Let me share my screen. Gyaksha, would you like to walk us through this?
Yes. So everyone, today's webinar is on climate change. And the aim of this webinar is to help you all develop the key competencies needed to enable young people like yourselves to become environmental leaders in the future. So we have a very interesting and a very competent speakers today. And let me just introduce you all to them. First up, we got Diniti Subhasinghe, who is a project assistant at UNDP. She works for environmental sensitive areas. And then we have Kaushila Amrakon, who is a youth lead, and he works for the climate and environmental team at UNDP Sri Lanka. And Anuradha, who is also a program coordination associate, and once again works for the climate and environmental team in Sri Lanka. So now over to y'all.
Thanks, Gyaksha. Hello, everyone. Good morning. I'm sorry, what happened to the screen? Can everyone see the screen now?
Not yet.
Okay, hold on, just give me a minute. Okay, now?
Yeah.
Okay,
good.
You guys have already joined in, but yeah, I just wanted to say, sorry. Okay. I'm sorry, the screen sharing seems to be going off.
Maybe just requesting everyone else to please not screen share if possible, and rather you can try again.
Okay, yeah, let me get started. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you're joining in from around the world. As Gyaksha introduced, my name is Anuradha Vitanachi, and I'm the Program Coordination Associate at the Climate and Environment team of UNDP Sri Lanka. And I'm here to talk a little bit about the environmental issues of today. So I think everyone is very have already started going in, but I would like to request if everybody could go to menti.com and enter the code 86901599, and we can get started. So as you can see on the screen, everybody's already joining in, but I would like to know where everyone's joining in from. Okay, from Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India, Bhutan. Okay, we have quite a turnout today. I'm very happy to be talking to everyone. Okay, so I think I'm gonna move on. So I would like to start with another question. What do you think is the most pressing, most important environmental issue of today? There's a couple of options on the screen. So yeah, please select whichever answer you think is correct. Okay, we have 65, over 70 people joining in and interacting with us. This is great. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly move on. Thank you so much for answering. But most of you were on the right track. Global warming is part of what's causing climate change. Both climate change is the most pressing issue, but global warming is a part of it. So I would like to move on. What is it? What is climate change and what causes climate change? I'm sure many of you already know what it is, but I think we'll take a quick refresher deep dive through this video.
Let's talk about climate change. People are calling it the crisis of our time, and it is.
Climate change.
Climate change.
Climate changes.
Climate change.
But it's easy to get lost in this story. The science is dense and politics get in the way. World leaders are meeting in Madrid to talk about the climate crisis and how to slow it down. And they're under pressure from millions of people around the world calling for concrete action.
The empty promises are the same, and the inaction is the same.
So what exactly are we doing wrong, and how do we fix it? We're going to kick this off with some basic science, so bear with me, because this is important. Look at this graph. These are the levels of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere over hundreds of thousands of years. But this spike in carbon dioxide at the very end, that took off during the Industrial Revolution. We started breaking CO2 records in 1950, and we haven't stopped since. Why? Well, scientists say there's a 95% chance that human activity is the cause. We've been burning more and more fossil fuels like oil and coal, which release CO2, to power our homes, factories, airplanes, and cars. There's also a lot more of us. The global population has tripled in the past 70 years. And we're consuming more products from animals that release another pollutant called methane. So all those gases are released into the air, and when sunlight gets into the Earth's atmosphere, some of the heat gets trapped and the planet gets warmer. That's why they call it the greenhouse effect. But the concern is not that the Earth is getting warmer. It's that it's happening far too quickly.
But it's actually the warmest temperature on Earth since the last ice age, since 10,000 years ago.
The UN says that right now, our world is about 1 degree hotter than pre-industrial times. That's around the year 1800, which is okay. In fact, the UN says if we warm by 1.5 degrees before the end of the century, we should be fine. The UN even says 2 degrees would probably be all right. But again, the problem is speed, because right now we're on track to hit 1.5 degrees in only 10 years. And if we don't slow that warming down, it could mean catastrophe within my lifetime, and maybe yours too. And we're already getting a taste.
Climate change is here. Climate change is happening. We are well into the 6th mass extinction event.
Europe is currently colder than the Arctic.
More than 1,000 people being rescued just in the early morning hours of Sunday.
Millions of people are likely to suffer worsening food
and water shortages. The drought, which is now in its 10th year, is a phenomena that's here to stay.
We've never seen a year's worth of rain in less than 7 days.
Sea levels are rising about 3 millimeters a year because seawater expands as temperatures get warmer. Melting ice sheets and glaciers also add trillions of tons of fresh water into our oceans. People around the world are already losing their homes. And if things carry on, millions more of us will have to pack up too. Entire coastal cities could be underwater within 80 years, like Miami in the US or Osaka in Japan. Entire island nations in the Pacific could completely disappear.
Natural disasters becoming more and more intense, more frequent, with more devastating consequences. The dramatic impacts of drought in different parts of the world, all this is creating a situation that is a real threat to humankind, and we are not doing enough.
If 99% of doctors said to you, take this medicine or you will get really sick and probably die, you would take it. Who wouldn't take it? The problem is, at the moment, we don't have any medicine.
Now there is a plan to slow all this down. Back in 2016, world leaders signed the so-called Paris Agreement. And the big pledge is to cap temperatures rising by 1.5 degrees or a maximum of 2 before the year 2100. So countries set their own targets on how much CO2 they emit. But here's the thing, 3 years after the agreement, global CO2 levels are still going up.
CO2 emissions have been going up the last year by 2%, so that's actually above the average of the last 10 years. So it's started to increase again, and it doesn't look too good.
In some ways, we're going backwards.
The United States will cease all implementation of the non-binding Paris Accord and the draconian financial and economic burdens the agreement imposes on our country.
The US, one of the world's biggest polluters, has pulled out of the Paris deal. Russia and China are accused of not giving themselves ambitious targets in the first place. Turkey and Poland want to build more power plants that use coal. And then there's the skeptics.
It's a political decision that there is man-made global warming.
Forced the computer models to say, human influence, CO2 and other stuff.
The ground-based temperature data has been massaged to show an increase, but the satellite data shows no increase.
On the other hand, there is positive momentum. There's more awareness, and some countries are making progress. India, Morocco, and the Gambia have massive renewable energy projects.
There are different countries doing things successfully. So some countries are, for example, making all public transport free in the cities. What a great way to encourage people out of their cars.
But experts say what's needed now is an even bigger push to change everything about the way we run our world.
Business as usual has got to change. Politics as usual has got to change. In order to combat that, we have to change the system that has allowed it to happen. You can't have infinite growth on a finite planet.
And everyone can do that by, shifting to renewable energy, reducing the use of cars, use train more, cycle more, eat less meat, consume a bit more carefully.
So where does that leave us? Well, there's only so much bike riding and light bulb replacing that you and I can do every day. But the truth is that it's those everyday things that are going to change anyway. Even coffee could run out if farmers can't grow it. So the expert advice is that it's down to all of us to change our ways and shake things up, or climate change is going to do it for us.
Okay, so now we know what climate change is, how it's caused, and how it affects us in general. But really, how does it affect us? So if we look at it, in Sri Lanka, where I'm from, Sri Lanka is one of the most climate vulnerable countries in the world. We have ranked 4th, 6th, and 2nd places on the Global Climate Vulnerability Index since 2018 till 2020. And so what does this mean? Because of climate change, Sri Lanka's established weather patterns will change and become unpredictable. Sri Lanka is very dependent on our monsoons. So because of climate change, these monsoons that have been routinely coming in every year from May to September, December to February will change. So that means the amount of water we receive from our monsoons will change. And we will have more frequent extreme weather events. Just in May 2021, we experienced 2 cyclonic events just in that 1 month alone. in 2016 and 17, we experienced catastrophic floods and droughts that affected more than 2 million people around our country and indirectly affected our food supplies because our agriculture is largely rain dependent. And these weather events, the natural resource scarcity, and the impacts on a majority of the rural livelihoods also worsen inequality. So what will happen is poor people will become even more poorer, and those that are vulnerable to climate change will become even more exposed to it. And if we look at it from a more broader perspective globally, just last month, we saw Canada experiencing a heat record of almost 50 degrees. That's unheard of in Canada. And other cities in the Pacific Northwest were trapped in a heat dome and recorded thousands of new heat records every single day that the heat dome existed. And now if you take a look at the news, you'll see Germany is experiencing some of the worst flooding the country has experienced in a century or so. And even more, according to United Nations Environment Program, we're losing our forest cover at a really alarming rate. We're losing around 50% of the world's corals and are projected to lose around 90% of it if we continue like this. And we're also right at the outset of the 6th mass extinction, where we're going to lose a lot of biodiversity in the world. And it doesn't stop there. So according to migration data, at the end of 2020, around 7 million people from around 104 countries and territories were living in displacement due to climate change-induced disasters. And this climate change and environmental migration is only going to get worse as climate change-induced weather events and disasters increase in frequency. So the effects of climate change are like a vicious cycle. When one thing is affected, it snowballs into all the other aspects that are interconnected in our lives. So this means that this will manifest in issues in the food we eat, the air we breathe, and the homes we live in, and even our own health. So, okay, we know what it is, we know how it affects us, but like, why do we need to take action? This seems like a very large issue that, seems a bit out of our reach. So one of the first things to know is like, don't worry, don't lose any hope in this. We're all working together. We have development agencies like UNV, UNDP working in the bigger picture, and governments are also making a lot of good progress towards combating this. But what we need to know is that across the world, scientists have given us 10 years to restore our environment and support climate action to bring back ourselves within the planetary boundaries. So that means by 2030, we must nearly halve our greenhouse gas emissions, and we need to reduce biodiversity lost. But the good news is we have the power and the knowledge to reverse this harm. We're all experiencing it experience the effects of it in different ways. So we have to do what we can do to protect ourselves and our families. So when we as individuals take action, our families will take action, our friends will take action, our schoolmates and office colleagues will take action. This way, our actions ripple out into action as a collective. And this is exactly what we need to change the current system that we're in. And as I mentioned before, we're also part of this big ecosystem we call the Earth. So an ecosystem is a complex network of interconnections. So when one aspect is affected, all the other aspects are also affected, like a series of dominoes. So we need to keep that in mind and work at every single thing that we see as issues in our current lives today. And lastly, we're the current generation of young people and youth. We're the generation that will also be suffering the most consequences of climate change. But we're also the last generation that can take action to end this. Because clearly most of our adults have failed, and that's why we're currently here. So, and in the future, we will also grow up to be adults that will benefit most from the restoration economy, where there are sustainable jobs, more social equity and equality, and environmental sustainability. So that's why we need to be doing all we can to take any action possible every day. So this is why we need to be mobilizing now. And one of the best ways to do this is community volunteering. Why? Because community volunteering means you're working with people that you know and you have their trust. So you know the strengths of your community and the people that you will be working with, the people you'll be working for, and know exactly what the issues are. So you're able to better help solve those issues. And community volunteering is also a great way to build inclusivity within climate action. You can involve all the people that are often overlooked within formal institutions or find it hard to be involved in the formal mechanisms due to prejudices. So this could mean that you could include disabled people, other young people, women or trans people, and anyone else in between and beyond. The knowledge, expertise, and unique experiences will add more strength to your actions and provide an intersectional and nuanced perspective into the issue you're tackling. Like, for instance, what sort of assistance do disabled people in your community do in case there's any flooding event? So these are the kind of things that we're missing when we don't practice inclusivity in our actions. And lastly, this is the most important thing, the strength in numbers. Your actions will be more sustainable if more people are helping you do it and maintaining and improving it. For example, let's say you're building an organic vegetable patch for your neighborhood to reduce the food miles. But like, what if one day you have to go to a scouts meeting and you can't water your vegetable patch? Or like one day you have a school assignment that needs to be done very quickly and you miss out on working on your vegetable patch during the weekend. So this is where other people come in. They can pitch in, they can help, they can give you more advice, and they can give you their knowledge and just make the entire activity more sustainable, and also in the process empower everyone around to get involved and take more action. So these are like a couple of the primary reasons that community volunteering is one of the most important parts of our current climate movement. So next, I'm going to invite my colleague Kaushala to take over and talk about how we can take action.
Thank you, Anuradha. So yes, basically now you guys from the beginning you understood what is the danger that we are in, what danger is planet Earth in. So you guys saw the video and you understood what we have to do, what we as individual has to do, and what we can do as a community or as a team, a group of friends or family, what we can do. So basically we have divided this into three main categories of what we can do, what is our role when we try to combat climate change. First one is actions. So it could be, you start some project of your own, or you join a project that is existing already, which through which you can do something to combat climate change. That is an action that you take. And then a choice, a change of your behavior, or a decision that you take. For example, the decision that you guys took to participate in this session today. You guys registered and you decided that, okay, I want to go to this session. I want to learn about climate change and what we can do as you. So I can see there are around more than 900 people in the webinar, and it's being live streamed from YouTube. There's much more people joining through YouTube as well. So that is a decision that every one of you do. What we can do, that's a choice that you do. And then voices, how you can make your voice, how you can be louder about what you do, the actions, the choices that you make to combat climate change. You tell it to other people as well, maybe to your family, to your friends, or to the community that you live in. So you make your voice so that you are being heard, and more people try to join with you, and more people act towards combating climate change. So these are three things that we could do. We can take actions, we can make choices or take decisions, and we can raise our voice. Brother, if you could. Yes. I don't have to introduce all the scouts here to the Earth Tribe challenges that you guys have come up with, which is a very, very good idea, a timely initiative when we try to combat climate change. And through the Earth Tribe challenge, there are three sub-challenges that you guys have understood and identified. One being Champions for Nature Challenge, then Tide Turn Plastic Challenge, and Scouts Go Solar Challenge. As you guys already know, climate change is a very big issue for the world. So Champions for Nature Challenge is something that is very important, and something that you all can get together as individuals or as scouts troops, as school friends, as your family, or as a community. You can get together and you can do something apart from what is outlined in your Champions for Nature Challenge, we've come up with a few suggestions to actions that you can take, choices that you can make, and voices that you can. So for some simple activities like, a tree plantation program in your schools, in your community, or even in your home garden, you start gardening. In your schools, you get together with your teachers, with your friends and all, and you start a model garden at school. Or else you go beyond that, you go to the community, and then you create green spaces in your neighborhood, in your community. And one of the most important things, you follow proper waste management practices, which is you start segregating your waste or you start recycling. And a simple thing that you can do, there are tools available online. You can calculate your ecological footprint or your environmental footprint, the effect that an individual or an activity that you do, or as a community, as a company, or as an organization, what is the footprint that you have in the actions you do. And in terms of choices for Champions of Nature Challenge, if you take, you could simply, select eco-friendly products without using, plastic, single-use plastic products. You can go to eco-friendly products, made out of wood, bamboo, and all. And then choosing virtual documents whenever it's possible. Without going for paper, you choose soft copies. And without maybe going for meetings, you choose to interact with each other in virtual means, through Zoom meetings or any other platform. And reducing your meat and dairy consumption, which is a very important thing when it comes to, combating climate change, because of the amount of the carbon dioxide that is being emitted in the process of making meat and dairy products. And only buy what you need. So without, you just limit to what you just need when you shop, when you buy things. And also choose to walk or use public transport. If it's a shorter distance, you could always choose to walk, or you can use public transport instead of using, your own vehicles, because that would greatly affect. And the voices, you can always arrange awareness programs in schools, communities, within your friends. And also you could organize competitions for others who are new to the topic, who wants to join hands with you, but who are new. You can organize competitions so that there is an awareness program and they get to know something and they get to engage with you. And then discuss in your family. This is something very simple. You could just discuss in your dinner table how you as a family can take action within your household. Simply maybe about, getting green concepts into your family, just about maybe following proper waste management practices. And also one thing is educating your friends about climate change and biodiversity loss. So you will learn something from the session today. So when you go back to your schools, when you go back to your community, family, you just educate them on these things. These are some simple actions that we could take for the Champions of Nature Challenge. Right. Tide Turner Plastic Challenge. This, if you have, if you are active on news, you might have seen that where I come from, Sri Lanka, we faced one of the biggest disasters in terms of maritime disasters in the history of Sri Lanka recently, with the ship that is there in the Sri Lankan waters. So that this is something that affects the entire world. It affects the Indian Ocean and it goes beyond that, because this is happening all throughout the world in different scales. So there are some actions that you can take to avoid this as well. First and simple things, you can organize beach and ocean cleanup campaigns, or you can help, restore vegetations above and below water. You can help the biodiversity to be preserved in those environments, the fish and all the other ocean creatures and the plants, the mangroves. You can help restore them. And you can, replace plastic as single-use materials at your school canteens. This is something that you can do in your school with your friends. This as a group project, you could do this. Also, you could use proper waste disposal materials as methods, as we spoke earlier. In the school or in community, you can just segregate your waste and practice recycling. That is something very simple that you can do as an individual or as a group in your families. You could just practice recycling, which would avoid plastic or garbage being dumped into oceans. And some other choices that you can take is, you choose to reduce the consumption of single-use plastics, such as the straws, plastic cups and plates that you use at parties and stuff for one single time. So you can avoid using that. That's a decision that you can take as an individual. And then this is also a big problem in the world cosmetic products as sunscreen. There are some sunscreens products that are harmful for the corals and the oceans. There are countries like, in Hawaii, it is banned to use a particular sunscreen product, which is, depending on the SPF value, they have banned. You can't use sunscreens that are above this SPF value because it is harmful to the ocean. So these are actions that they have taken, and we as an individual can also take an action like that. Okay, I'm not using this product anymore because it's harmful to the ocean, to the corals. You can take that action, can make that decision, and also choose to, sustainably source seafood. There are the seafood which are being, sourced in using unsustainable methods, so you can avoid them. And the other voices that we can make, campaigns against to promote sustainable use of the ocean resources, and the campaigns to, mainstream recycling within your neighborhood, your school, your university, or wherever you come from within your community. You can just make your voice, make them aware, the community, the school friends, you can make them aware. And then most importantly, you do something and you share that in social media or by word of mouth. You just share it with the others so that others also get together with you to do the same thing, so that the more people doing simple things would make a huge difference. Next slide. Right, Scouts Go Solar Challenge, which is very, very important. People all around the globe are discussing about this, how we can move on to more renewable energy. So some actions that you can take is, work with your community groups to install solar panels at the community centers or common spaces that you use. This might not be very possible for you to do as an individual, but you could get together as a community. You could get involved the government agencies that are relevant, and you could really make a change in the community. And you engage with your school administration once again to use solar panels or other renewable energy practices in your school, for your school requirements, for your labs and all. And then you can develop projects, to light up public spaces with solar. In Sri Lanka, that is a very good practice that has been happening for some time. Our public spaces are mostly in light up using solar energy. And some choices that you can take is, choose sustainable products and goods, that are organic and that are being prepared using sustainable energy, using solar energy or renewable energy. And fossil fuels are the biggest emitters in the world. So, you can enroll into virtual platforms. There are seminars, there are YouTube videos where you can, learn more about renewable energy or solar energy. So that is a choice that you make to educate yourself on this. And then reduce energy wastage as much as possible, even in your families or in your schools or communities. You can practice, you can choose to, reduce the energy wastage. You can switch off lights that are not being used and all. The voices, again, awareness campaigns that we can make to educate the community, the school, everyone on what are the benefits of using solar energy in terms of financially and also environmentally. We can educate them. And, developing process papers or developing project proposals, to acquiring solar connections to your community, to your schools, and to the other public places that are within the community. So these are simple things, actions, choices, and voices that you can make. As you saw in that video, it is very important that we as individuals change our behaviors so that it affects to the greater good of the world in terms when we try to combat climate change. And just again to remind, it can be an individual, it could be an individual act, or it could be a community act, that community come together, volunteer. It could be your friends, your family, or your neighbors. You get together and you act to combat climate change. So now here we have just listed down only a few points that came to mind just to, set the tone, set the direction. So if you go to the next slide, I would like to get some of your suggestions on what more we can as youth do to combat climate change. We welcome all your suggestions. We'll be sharing this again after the session also with you, but just, enter anything that comes to your mind. What can you do? What can we do as individuals or as a group, as scouts or as friends in the school? What can we do? It's your turn to provide ideas. You could maybe put it in the Zoom chat as well if you don't have access to the Menti account. Just we'd like to see some good initiatives from all around the world. We have 950 participants, which is very good. Yes, recycle plastic and polythene. Very good suggestion. It affects to both, or both the tide turn and the plastic challenge, and also overall. Yes, plantation. Yes, definitely it works really well. Not to pollute air, definitely something that we as individuals can do, and as the community we can do. Air pollution is a very big challenge for us. Reduce usage of cars, of course, we can use public transport or walking. Yes, reduce meat consumption, using electric vehicles. Very good ideas. You guys are amazing. We have many ideas. Replantation, right? Replan our consumption habits. Really simple things, but that has a very greater impact to the entire world. Teach about the subject in early stage. Very true. This has to be in the school level. This has to be taught to the kids so that they have an idea. Reforestation, of course, using the 3R method. Okay, very good. Sustainable use of fossil fuel, of course, growing plants. Amazing. We have some really good insights coming in. So now you guys know that what we can do, what actions we can take, what voices that we can raise, or what decisions that we can take. But when it really comes to a group project, as an individual or as a group, when you do it, there should be a mechanism how we can do this. What are the things, what are the steps that we need to follow? I think my colleague Diniti is ready to take you through that bit of the presentation where you can learn on how we can manage a project, how we can start a project. Thank you. Keep on sending the good insights. Diniti, over to you.
Thanks, Kaushal. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who is joining us from all around the world. I'm Diniti, and I'll be taking you through some slides on how to start an environmental project. So before we get into that, now you know that youth and children are the key contributors towards taking actions on climate change, global warming, and other environmental issues around the world. So every little thing that we do to protect our environment can go a long way in helping combat climate change. Now that you know from the previous section on what kind of actions, choices, and voices that you can take, let's see how you can actually do it. For you to start, first check on environmental issues in your area. It can be deforestation, increased use of fossil fuels, air pollution, water pollution, or unhealthy waste disposal mechanisms, etc. After you do a small research about the environmental issues in your area, just think about what you are going to do to reduce or mitigate the environmental issue. Just a simple idea is all you need. For this, let's start with an example. Say you identify deforestation as an environmental issue in the area you live in. Then a few ideas to overcome deforestation would be to plant trees, hold a tree planting campaign, use and encourage recycled products, things like that. Then before you start, ask from yourself simple questions like, what do I want to achieve? In the case of a tree planting campaign, holding an event like that can help reduce deforestation. It can also help to educate communities about the benefits of trees and nature, help produce more oxygen, and build community spirit and unity. And after that, think about how long you are willing to do this or can do this. Is it only going to be a one-time event, or will you be doing this for 2-3 months or once every month? Once you decide on that, think about what the impacts of implementing this idea would be. Again, going back to our example on a tree planting campaign, think about if you hold a tree planting event, what kind of benefits will that do to the environment around you and for your community? Next, you can search and see if there are any community organizations or youth groups who are already participating in these kind of initiatives, and decide if you'd like to engage with them and to start your project. After you get a gist of what you want to do and what your project should be about, you can start building a network of people around you. Ask from your friends and family for more ideas. Talk to your troop leader, other local service organizations, youth groups, clubs, and brainstorm ideas. Once you have decided on what you want to achieve through a project, first thing you need to do is design an action plan. Basically, an action plan is a small schedule that you can make covering points such as what are the steps you need to take to solve this identified issue, what are the expected results of each step, and how will the community benefit from each of these results. In the case of the deforestation issue, a step that we can take towards solving the issue would be to hold a tree planting campaign. An expected result of such a campaign would be increased use of increased oxygen in the environment, reduction in erosion and pollution of waterways. It can also provide a habitat for many wildlife species and provide food, protection, and homes for many birds and animals. Ultimately, a benefit to the community would be increased community awareness. So once you have designed your action plan, gather your resources. Resources can be human resources such as a group of friends, your fellow scouts, community who are interested in these type of activities, so on and so forth. Check on materials and tools you will need. In the case of a tree planting campaign, you will need to have seeds, seedlings, gardening tools, gloves, etc. And lastly, you will need to have funds. Raising funds is found to be the most challenging task for youth projects. Therefore, in the next slide, I have presented some tips or ways in which you can raise funds for your environmental projects. First, you can start by doing some small fundraising events such as ice cream sales, chocolate chip cookie sales, things like that. You can also collect donations from your scout troops or community. You can check with your school council and environment clubs in your school on the budget availability. And you can also use the networks you created earlier when you were deciding on the project ideas to find some sponsors for your project. And another very important tip is to always raise awareness about the project idea to the community. This way you can encourage them and motivate them to see the impact you're planning to make and to support you. In the next slide, now that you have gathered your team's resources and a solid plan, get to work. Going back to our tree planting campaign, before your plan, fix a date, gather your fellow scouts, friends, and community, get your equipment, materials, and prepare your site, and start the campaign by planting your seeds and seedlings. During the project, always make sure you monitor your progress, keep a track of what you are doing, and document your actions. Create blogs, posts, and articles, and share them around the community to let them know about your project. Also, during the project, if you face any challenges, get your team together and try to find solutions. Get advices from your elders, past scout members, and make notes on how you overcame those challenges. And once you have successfully conducted a tree planting campaign or few other campaigns and achieved your project targets, celebrate your achievement with your fellow scout members. Tell your achievement to other scout troops and share knowledge and experience. Encourage communities to carry on these environmental activities. And lastly, in the last slide, I want to talk about few ways on how to engage community during this global pandemic situation. Even though engaging community can be a difficult task, in some countries, there are always options for us to connect with the community. Apart from traditional methods such as putting up posters and articles in our school newspapers or local newspapers, we can now go digital. We can use online platforms such as Zoom, Google Hangouts, WebEx to connect with community and get their ideas and projects. We can also use social media such as Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook to raise awareness. With that, lastly, I want to let you know that we can do it. We can protect our earth. Let's work together. Let's make it count. Thank you. And over to you, Anuradha.
Thank you, Diniti. So like this past half an hour or more, we've been going on and on about what issues we have, how we can take action, and why we need to take action now. But I also know from working in this and reading all of this news and all of that about this issue, climate change is such a daunting subject. It's such a huge global issue. So can we really do this? That's a question I asked myself a lot. And the answer I give myself is yes, because young people like us have been putting up a fight for this and been leading this fight for so long. So what I found is that most of the action that we're taking can be divided into 4 clear segments. 1 is climate movements and activism. 2 is youth-led research and climate education. 3 is youth community volunteering and projects. And 4 is creating awareness and speaking up. So to get everyone in the spirit and get a bit of inspiration to get things moving, we've put together this little video from young people who are taking action around the world.
I'm Severin Suzuki, speaking for ECHO, the Environmental Children's Organization. We're a group of 12 and 13-year-olds trying to make a difference. Vanessa Seti, Morgan Geisler, Michelle Quigg, and me. We've raised all the money to come here ourselves, to come 5,000 miles to tell you adults you must change your ways. Coming up here today, I have no hidden agenda. I am fighting for my future.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth.
Youth-led research is crucial because, in essence, you are empowering the young person to take charge, to identify the problems that they're facing in society, and also to come up with the solutions that they think can help them in solving these issues.
Start small. Started collecting my home waste, and then now it's growing into a factory that is, going to stop trees from being cut.
Are not aware of what can be done to solve the plastic pollution in Tanzania. So this motivates me to do more and more creating awareness to people. And what motivates me that people are eager to learn. They are eager to change their mindset.
Okay, so Gyaksha, would you like to come in and take us through this?
Yes, guys. So as Anuradha and other colleagues explained, so our actions are a crucial part of this global climate change action that we can take. So to commit to this action, what are the promises that we can make? Like, for example, I promise to use less plastic in the future. So just let us know your ideas, like what is your climate change promise? And you can put it in the chat box or else in Mentimeter as it has been shared. A few responses are already coming up. So encouraging everyone to put in their ideas.
Yes, we can see some really nice promises coming in. I promise to manage what I consume. Yes, that's something very simple that you could do, but it has a huge impact. Yeah, we have in the chat here as well, go green and plant trees, to use reusable bags. Of course, stop using plastic. Very good. I promised not to use things that are harmful to the Mother Earth. Very good, very beautiful, very nice promise. Okay, I promised not to cut trees. Very important. To reduce single-use plastic and use alternatives. Very useful, very good promise.
I also see one that says that they will join more of these kind of activities to lead the community. I think that's also very, very important.
Yes, very true.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, everyone. There are more comments, more promises coming in our Zoom chat as well. I hope we can save the chat and then we will share all the promises with you again. Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for all these promises. We hope you will act on these as well. Thank you. Yaksha?
Okay, so we will.
Yes, Anuradha, over to you, sir.
Yeah, so we will be opening the next 5 minutes. We'll be opening for questions. If anyone has questions, you could always type it into Mentimeter, or you could also unmute yourself and ask directly on Zoom. We have one question on how can we fish sustainably. I think this is a bit of a larger question, but one in my perspective, actions that we could do is, opting for more seasonal and regional food. That means food that is very easily available in your country. Like for instance, looking for salmon harvested somewhere from Japan is unsustainable. It exerts more pressure on our oceans, and it also adds on a lot of GHG emissions in transporting salmon to wherever you live. So eating seasonally and regionally is one of the easiest way to consume fish or anything sustainably. 3R is a very useful tool in managing our waste, and I think it's a great initiative to take in our everyday lives. Communities like Kaushalya, would you like to answer this?
Yes. Communities. So community can be anything. It could be your neighbors. It could be your friends from your school that you get together and you have a vision, the promise that you guys have made. So that is act towards that with a group. That will be your community. It doesn't always have to be a established community, but you could also search for the youth organizations, the Scouts troops. There are other, there are youth organizations, even in schools and universities. There are clubs and organizations that work towards combating climate change. So you could always join something like that, or you could always start something of your own as well. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be, reaching to, throughout the entire world, but you could start small, which would, snowball into something very larger in the coming days. It only takes actually a few people to start a community and to act towards it.
How can we increase the rate of tree plantation? This could be looked at in a couple of ways, but I think one of the easiest ways to start is from your own garden. If you're living in an apartment, start your own little balcony garden. Thinking of it in a very bigger forest sort of sense is a bit difficult because it needs more technical knowledge, but the easiest way is to either support an organization who practices or usually regularly practice replantation work, or you could always start from your own garden. You could start with doing a community garden in your neighborhood. It's very, very easy. Just think small and start small. That is true. This is a very, very good question. But as you saw in the video, people are listening now. You saw young people are taking very radical action to save our future. And, it doesn't even have to be radical. You can always start small, use your social media, put out a TikTok video if that's what you do. It only takes, it doesn't matter if 5 people listen to us, but that's what matters.
Exactly. Just a simple example. When you throw a pebble into a river or a pond, you just throw one pebble, but it creates ripples. It creates effects. It creates a ripple effect which reach far throughout. So you just have to start acting as an individual. And as Anuradha clearly mentioned, you need to voice what you do. You need to share with the community so that they would come with you. Then it would be a larger movement, definitely. But you will have to start small. You have to start with yourself. We need that behavioral change from each and every one of us to combat the climate change.
My family and friends are not really supporting to take action. This is very common. I think the only thing you can do is start with yourself. Maybe what you do is just start using, stop using plastic bottles and, use a glass bottle, or just asking your mother to maybe, get seasonal and regional food. It doesn't have to be very large things. It's just the best way is to start by yourself. Maybe, start a composting practice in your home. I know it is a bit difficult, but I think as you go along, your parents will eventually support you. Okay, so we have a lot of questions coming in, but I think it's time to hand over to Gyaksha and sort of wrap this up.
Yes, colleagues, thank you so much for this very interesting and informative session. And I hope that all the participants learned a lot and enjoyed it. So just a reminder to the participants to don't forget to register yourselves to the other webinars as well. And as shown earlier, y'all can do it at the Community Volunteer Center. So the next session that we have, that is the 4th webinar, is held at 8 p.m. today, IST, and it is on diversity, inclusion, and peace. And then tomorrow we do have 3 more other sessions which covers topics from education to the digital divide. So make sure to join in onto all those sessions, register yourselves. And thank you so much for your participation today, for being very interactive and lively. And we hope that you have a great rest of the day. So thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.